back to the MTR Network. This is Kriss, and I'm joined by Petty Kruger today. Phenom did not see this movie. We are doing a review of Fences. This is also our last movie review in 2016. So, hope you guys like this. This is, again, like I said, Fences. An African-American father struggles with the race relations in the United States while trying to raise his family in the 1950s and come to terms with the events of his life. It is directed by Denzel Washington. Also stars Denzel Washington, Viola Davis, Stephen Henderson, or Stephen Henderson. Who else is in this? Russell Hornsby, Jovan Adepo. Let's see who else is in this. That's basically it. What is the guy? McKelty Williamson. Yeah, that's the other guy. I mean, it's a very small cast. This is based off of a film, I believe. A play by August Wilson. I think I saw somewhere that Denzel Washington is trying to do all of his plays, and put them all in film. And I didn't know at first that this was a play. But I think you and I were talking about this on the ride back after seeing it. It was like it had that play feel to it because it's a very small cast. The sets are, there's not that many sets. I mean, it's
basically one location, which is on Max's house or Troy's house. Yeah,
and truth of the matter is the backyard.
Yeah,
I would say about 70% of the film takes place in that backyard. Before we get started into this, I want to play this conversation from the trailer because it's in the film, and this is such a dialogue heavy film, but it's so good and so black. So I'm gonna play this real quick for us.
Hey, Pop. Can I ask you a question? How come you ain't never liked me?
Like you? What law is there say I got to like you?
None.
All right, then. Don't you eat every day? Answer me when I talk to you. Don't you eat every day?
Yeah.
As long as you in my house, you put a sir on the end of it when you talk to me.
Yes, sir.
You eat every day.
Yes, sir.
Got a roof over your head.
Yes, sir.
Got clothes on your back.
Yes, sir.
Why you think that is?
Because of you.
Hell, I know it's because of me. But why do you think that is?
Because you like me?
Like you. I go out of here every morning. I bust my butt because I like you. You're about the biggest fool I ever saw. A man is supposed to take care of his family. You live in my house, fill your belly with my food, put your behind on my bed because you're my son. It's my duty to take care of you. I owe a responsibility to you. I ain't got to like you. Now, I don't give you everything I got to give you. I give you your life. Me and your mama worked that out between us, and liking your black ass wasn't part of the bargain. Now, don't you go through life worrying about whether somebody like you or not. You best be making sure that they're doing right by you. You understand what I'm saying?
Everything.
Yo.
Listen, every Negro in the house that night in the theater with us, was like, It was like going back to church for a hot second because everybody caught, if not that whole speech, a part of that speech at some point in their lives.
Like, this is one of the most real black films I've ever seen in my life.
The white people sitting in front of us were stoic as fuck because they didn't know what to do with any of that.
Well, and again, that comes about maybe about halfway through the film, maybe a little bit sooner than that. But I knew this film, and this is a film that has been getting a lot of buzz because everybody's like, hey, Denzel Washington's going to get Best Director. Viola Davis should get Best Supporting Actress.
It's only the
Best
next
Actor.
Logical extension, considering that they both got Tony Awards for this on Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why, I didn't mean Best Director, but he should get Best Director too, but Best Actor. The first 15 minutes of this film, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, Denzel won. Like, I knew and I haven't had a feeling like that about a person since I watched the first 15 minutes of The Theory of Everything and saw Eddie Redmayne become Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, I watched that, and I was like, oh, no. Yeah, he won. Like, just give him the award. We don't even go through all the formalities of this. He won. Same thing happened with this film. First 15 minutes, because the first 15 minutes of this film is literally just is mostly Denzel Washington having a conversation as Max. As Troy Maxon with, I believe it's with Stephen Harrison's Jim Bono. Yeah. So the two of them are having a conversation. I think Viola shows up at one point, and Denzel is just having this conversation that is just such a, like, again, you'll know whether it was your father, your uncles, somebody, you've heard this kind of conversation, and it wasn't even, it was just them talking about work, talking about how they gotta, they gotta do right by their people. Like, it's just a conversation. And I haven't seen a film with black people just have a real conversation like this. And it wasn't like all serious. It was joking. I mean, Denzel in the first 15 minutes drops about 30 niggas. and they're all different. They all mean different things,
Yes, with every different inflection.
Right. Like, there's later on in the film, and I told Rod this, like, everybody knows how Rod and I feel about the word nigga, yo. We use that shit all the time, yo. That's just, we can have whole conversation with the word, just with the word nigga. At one point, Henderson's Jim Bono says nigga, like that, because Troy,
it was the incredulous nigga drop,
because they're building the fence in the backyard, and Troy had gotten the good wood, the expensive wood, and this nigga's like, nigga, what you getting this hardwood? What you getting this wood for? You better get that cheap wood, nigga. Like, it is such a real conversation and a real reaction that you're just like, damn, man, I ain't seen a movie like that, and I ain't seen a conversation like that where it's not forced, and it's just real, and it feels like the 50s. It feels like a conversation, older family members in your black family members in your family have had, and how they interacted with each other. Yeah, it's great. It is just, yeah. After that first 15 minutes, and he just keeps talking. And it's just over and over and over, and he doesn't stop. Like, at one point, I'm looking at my watch. Like, is Denzel gonna stop talking? No, we're really gonna talk for 15 minutes. Oh no, he's going to talk for 20 minutes. Oh, he's just gonna keep going. All right, cool.
Yeah. He definitely a motor mouth in this.
Mm-hmm. But it's good. It's good dialogue. It's dialogue that grabs you and draws you in, and you want to hear
gripping. And like I said, I didn't know about anything about this movie. My sister, gave me a quick rundown a few hours before I even left work to meet you to go see it. And I was so impressed. Because it's really hard. As a medium transfer, it is not easy to translate things from the stage to the film, because it runs the risk of being too much like a stage on the silver screen. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of what Tyler Perry's problems are, is that he films things the way he would do a play. Mm-hmm. And I think Denzel did like a masterful job. And had I not known that this was a play to begin with, I would not have been able to tell. Yeah.
The only reason why I know it was a play for two reasons. One, somebody told me. And actually, the second thing isn't what gave it away, but it explained it. Like I said, the way that the limited amount of set pieces just tell you. Like I said, most of the film takes place in this backyard. There are other or at the house. There's not a lot of characters or anything like that. So it's like that kind of gives away too. But like you said, the way that he shot it and the way that Denzel as this director framed these shots and framed these scenes, he used different camera angles and he used different ways so that while it is a play, you don't get that play feeling. Like you said, like Tyler Perry does these things where he literally takes his play and puts it in a movie form, and sometimes you even get the dead silence sometimes, this is why I always used to hate those movies. I'm like, hey, he has dead silence. Like, he has, like, you almost feel like the actors are waiting for them to go, line. Like, what are they doing? Like, they're not acting like this is a movie. They're acting like this is a play. And it doesn't translate well. And we've seen that before. This, it's so good. It's seamless and it feels there. I would think the other thing too about it is the subject matter is so real, you know?
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with, I mean, it deals with, you know, the 50s, so you have the racism, so you have him talking about the issue going on with his job and him. Troy and Jim are both trashmen and garbage men, and they work on the back of the truck. Troy is talking about how, hey, we should be drivers. So he's working on, he wants to be a driver. And there's a conversation in there about, dude, you ain't even got a license. You trying to be a driver. You're like, they ain't got to worry about that. Not doing the opportunity, right? There's the
Which,
whole thing.
oddly enough, is only what his son wanted with football.
Right. You know, his son wants to play football. His son wants to play ball and
had a chance at a college scholarship to go play for free education.
Right. But Troy doesn't want him to do that because Troy used to play in the Negro baseball league and never got that opportunity. So he doesn't see, he's thinking about the fact that, hey, that white man's never going to let you play ball. And Viola Rose is always telling him, hey, times have changed, man. They're going to give him a free education. They're going to, and he's just like, no, they haven't changed that much. And it's just, you have that aspect of black people not believing and black parents not believing that times have changed enough that their kids who they believe in will be able to get the opportunities that they didn't have because white people ain't gonna let you do that. Like so many times, it says, "Hey man, them crackers ain't gonna let you play ball, yo. They ain't gonna let you be out there. They ain't gonna let you do that, you know." And looking at what we know now in 2016, you're like, "Hey man, you should let them play ball." But in 1950s, you're like, I can see why you believe that.
Yeah, it's almost like a zero-sum game with white people because, yes, like there is incremental change that allowed black folks into spaces that weren't open to them before. But when the majority of your life has been, you know, butting up against the wall of white supremacy that prevented you from actually going about your life and, you know, doing what you wish with your life and future and career, that just, it's kind of like you want to prevent your kids from experiencing that same type of pain from coming up against that roadblock. So it's part of a coping strategy. And also because you want to, you know, protect your kids from if things go wrong, right. I want to prevent that from happening to you. Like the despair that will happen is not because of anything of your own doing, you weren't able to make success the way that you wanted to.
Exactly. And seeing the burden that Troy puts on there. I mean, he does some fucked up shit too, you know. Minor spoiler here.
He is very narcissistic and self-centered.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole thing in here with him cheating on Rose, you know, and what that leads to. And why that's so interesting to me is it kind of ties back to the white supremacy thing at one point. And again, he's wrong in this. But his mindset is basically you have, and this happened with so many black people, this mindset of they're so focused on trying not to fail and trying not to be like their parents and trying not to be like this, that he never took time to really express his own feelings and be himself and be that way with Rose and be honest with her. So then he goes out and cheats on her because he finds someone else that he can be that with, and he's wrong for that. But it shows you just how much white supremacy and the burden
Black patriarchy
right.
kind of dovetail.
Yeah, it shows you how that came about. Because it's like, yo, you wouldn't allow these people, particularly black men, to share those emotions and to fail and to stumble and to feel like they could do anything else other than be perfect, you know, and to be something that sometimes they might not be, you know. And again, they're wrong for that. And it's like you see this in 1950 and you think about it in 2016, you're like, hey, not too much has changed. You still have a lot of black men who passed that on, who got that passed on from their fathers. There's a conversation in here later on. Russell Hornsby plays I can't remember. He plays the other son, and you find out before you're like, hey, are they? At first, I didn't know if they were related because Lion keeps calling him Pop.
Tyson's the older son.
Yeah, and I'm like, I was like, are they related or whatnot? And you find out because at one point he even says, well, if you wanted to, you wanted me to be a better son, you should have raised me right. I'm like, oh wait, did he have another child that he just abandoned? Then you find out what happened with that, and you find out why he wasn't there in his life, and he also gives you the story about what happened with his, Troy talks about what happened with his father, and you're just like, oh, it's passed along, this they were never given, black people were never given the opportunity, and it just keeps passing down generation to generation to generation, and a lot of these black men never got a chance to actually address that. They had to suck it up, swallow it down, and swallow those emotions and move forward. Never got to understand that, hey, times have changed, things to get better, and to change their behavior.
Yeah, and I think that's why he was like resentful of Lyons, because Lyons was a musician. So I think there's a line in the movie where he says like he needed something that he could wake up for, and music was his reason for waking up every day. And what's his name?
Troy.
Denzel Washington's character like pretty much like shits on him, and even when later in the movie he invites him out to come hear him play, he refuses to go do it. Right. Because I kind of think that he doesn't want to feel ashamed that he never supported his son's like music as an outlet to express himself, but B, because he didn't have a way of doing the same thing for himself. Exactly. And the way that he did choose to do it a little bit was to betray his wife.
Yep. Yeah. It's like it was that it was such a like this is such a real film, like I think a lot of black people will find some way like the Troy Maxon Rose Maxon story isn't going to be your family story, but there are definitely bits and pieces of that in there that you get. I mean, we've been talking about Denzel Washington. Viola Davis does an amazing job as Rose in this film, of being that black supportive wife and mother, in this time period too. And you don't see it at first.
Literally, like the bridge is her back.
Right. Right.
And she finally stood up and was like, no more.
Exactly. Like Troy spent all this time talking about how he didn't get a chance to live the life he wanted to and express himself. And Rosa has to break it down to him and let him know, hey, listen, I'm right there with you. I was the same stuff you were going through, the same troubles you were going through, the same dreams that you had to defer, I had to do too, because I'm right there beside you trying to hold you up. So,
and the part that really hits at you is essentially the fact that, and I think this goes in hand with like, the pro-black / patriarchy, which is, as Rod says, is, black men are the white people of black people, because black women and black women are continually invisible. So even as he is married to this woman whom he claims to say he loves deeply, is devoted to her, has been for almost 2 decades, but yet and still he went and like selfishly pursued another outside relationship, and then somehow seemed to think that Rose would deal with it. So completely taking her for granted. And then later on in the movie, when he brings that child home, he notices her absence very goddamn deeply. So it's only like when men like need something from us that they see, that's when they need us, is when they can get something from us. But when they don't perceive to need us, then we're invisible.
Yeah, he never, and it's a very striking way they did the film. because it's very subtle in some ways. You don't, as a watcher, you don't realize, like Rose at the beginning of the film is almost like a bystander, but as the film goes on, she becomes more and more important in the film. And
yeah, she becomes. It is
yeah.
literally like a snail, like the coil of of a snail's shell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start at the very tight center, which is very much around Denzel Washington's Troy's character,
Mm-hmm.
and then as the story like moves on, he's not the focus anymore. It's completely her. So it turns from a man's story to a woman's story.
Mm-hmm. And like you see that, you see her, you see what she goes through and what she's been doing, the stuff that Troy himself has never really been paying attention to, because he's been so focused on himself. Like even the things he did for her, it was still in the eyes of himself. What he was providing and what he was doing, he never really paid attention to what she was providing. And it's just, like I said, that is a very real thing that we see in all relationships, like black or white. You see that all the time, but particularly
and
in
it's
black
also just how people, like society in general, like regardless of race, just doesn't value women's contributions to your everyday life. You
Absolutely.
know, from the home to work, from the bed to the dinner table. You know, we are only noticeable when we're not there, present, because I think to a great extent we keep your lives in constant motion.
Mm-hmm.
And once something that you need from is no longer there, you're like, oh, holy shit! Now that this is no longer here to support me, I don't know how to go about doing this. I don't know how to feed a baby. I don't even know how to change a diaper. What am I going to do when the baby starts crying? But because mothering is typically seen more as a woman's job, and the father's job is to provide a roof over their heads and food on the table, that is seen as the bigger, more not relevant, but most important contribution to the household, never really the mother's.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the point of having a roof over your head if you don't know how to, keep the child fed?
Right. So, I mean, it is, and she does again a remarkable job in this film.
Listen, that snot cry is about to be a GIF.
Listen, let's not cry. Like again, that's another one. I saw the snot cry in the commercial. I mean, in the trailer, I was like, okay, she got the Oscar. You win. Like there's no. I mean, sorry, yo, that's just too powerful. You can't beat the Viola Davis snot cry. I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck. And if they don't win,
it's right there to the glory tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And boy, listen, when she finally wiped her nose,
yeah,
the whole freaking theater erupted.
Mm-hmm.
She got some applause, which is something that you typically don't get in a film, but you do get in a play. Right. So this is another genius thing about how Denzel Washington directed this movie, because he gives you that moment where in typically a theater, the crowd response is so visceral to the performance, you allow a few seconds for the crowd to react to the scene that they just saw. And there were a handful of times that moment happened in this movie, more so towards the end.
Yeah.
But it was definitely there. And I applaud that.
Yeah. Some other interactions you get. McKelty Wilson, he plays Gabriel, who is Troy Maxon's brother, who you find out was
Bubba Gump.
You basically,
Forrest Gump. Sorry, was Bubba from Forrest Gump.
Yeah, he was injured in the war, and there's some stuff with him, and you don't get the full story about that, but you also get that Troy feels some responsibility because he got Gabriel got some money, and Troy used that money to kind of get the house together for them to live in and stuff like that. But you're never really sure because there's back and forth between Troy feeling guilty because he didn't do enough for his brother. You even at some point have some people I want to say it was his son Corey try to say that, well, you just took your brother's money and you didn't really care about him. And you also know that at some point, I think Troy did send Gabriel back to the hospital. But it's a very complex thing where you can see it again. It's one of the things that there's so much that goes in this film that's unspoken to. There's a moment where you
there's
see
a lot of subtext about mental illness.
Yeah, you see the way Troy looks at Gabriel, and just you feel for him so much. Like he knows this is his brother. He knows there's something going on with that he wished he could do more. And there's at one point he does feel guilty. And I think even again, it's a small thing. But it's at the beginning of the film. It's back when, again, Rose is kind of a background character where she's trying to tell him, she's like, listen, don't feel bad about using that money that you got for helping Gabriel. You tried to, you got the house for all of us. You gave him room. You try to keep him out there. You go down. You keep him from being committed all the time. But he wanted to go out and live on his own. He moved out. You're doing the best you can. You are a good brother. Then you come back later on the film and she kind of suggests that maybe he wasn't taking care of his brother the way he should have been taken care of. And you're like, yeah, well, see, Troy, when you kind of betray your woman, she ain't going to have your back on some of these things and make you feel better about some of the decisions you had to make. Even those tough decisions, even if you had to make them, maybe you shouldn't have betrayed your woman like that. Like, it's just, there's a lot of that.
Here's the thing. I don't think it was so much that, but it's just in the month that essentially they were estranged.
Mm-hmm.
He, essentially, he kind of, I don't know if something else happened. I know at one point he got arrested, but I think just so that Gabriel wasn't another burden on him.
Right. And he couldn't handle it.
That he had him committed.
Mm-hmm.
And Rose went to check his ass on that. Not just because I think he was absolutely committed to him beforehand, but with Rose gone, like his life unraveled. Like he didn't know what the hell to do with himself or with anyone else. Yeah. So, the fact that she confronted him because in a month, he'd been arrested and was ultimately committed, and then she was like, "So why did you sign the paper to have him sent to the mental hospital?"
Right.
And that's when we find out that he was illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't know what he was signing.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So
and also that makes so much more sense because, at the beginning of the movie when he and, I forgot his friend's name. They were leaving work.
Jim. Yeah.
He was like writing something on the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
You think he was like tracing his name?
It might have been. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that. Him admitting he didn't know it. But again, goes back to what we were saying before about this film touches on so many little things from the 1950s. Like this is a whole generation of men out there and women out there who grew up didn't know how to read and write. And it goes back to what he's focusing on his son. Like, so then we get back to his son Corey, who wants to be the football player, who's good at football, has a job, but he's like, I can't do the job and do football practice at the same time. And Troy's like, well, I guess you're not going to play football then, because you're not going to give up that good job. You're not going to give up a job on the hope and dream that you can make it as a football player. And I had such mixed feelings on this because it's one of those things.
Me too.
Because it's like, on the one hand, you're like, yo, let the boy play football. Like Rose said, let the boy play football. Get him an education, get him all this stuff. But at the same time, you're like, hey, yeah, well, what happens if that doesn't work out? What happens when white people lie? Like,
and from Troy's own backstory, like he grew up very very insecure. Like, he grew up like essentially like a sharecropper, one of like a billion kids, and so his growing up was punctuated with nothing but constant hardship. So like the ability to work of earning your own bread was more significant to him in his growing up as in an unstable environment, and then having to strike out on his own and having to work odd jobs in order to make money. So I think his emphasis on Corey working is a byproduct of that, because as hard as this world is on Black folks, as long as you have some type of nest egg, some type of resource to fall back on, you aren't really beholden to anyone else. But it's just a high wire act that at some point in our lives we have to choose if we're going to walk it or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those things that it's so like I said, it's such a real thing that even if your conversation with your folks didn't go this way, like I'll never forget. I played basketball in high school, and well, my father always told me, it's like, yo, listen, you better keep your grades up because you better, and not just keep your grades up. Your grades better be the same way they were before you played basketball as they were afterwards.
Oh yeah, listen,
there's no
anything
change.
extracurricular was always a privilege.
Right. And it just what happens. Like you're gonna be, if you're gonna be a student athlete, you're gonna be a student athlete. You know, that's what you're gonna do. There's not gonna be any of the, one or the other or anything like that. And it wasn't any trying to believe that, oh yeah, one day. It just, I saw my father so much in Troy in this film. Not everything, but just so much. Even down to the fact that my dad played baseball. My dad was a big, huge baseball person too. And I guess it goes back to the whole Negro Baseball League thing. That's what, that's if you were growing up and an athlete, that's what you look towards as a young black man, So he's all in the baseball. Baseball is a thing. To this day, I still try to take him out to baseball games when I can because that's his thing. And so this film always coming back to that ball on a string and Troy picking up that bat and hitting that ball on that string and talking about his dreams and what he couldn't do and things like that. It just felt so real. Even down to that moment when Corey thinks he's gotten too old, too grown, and he thinks he can challenge Troy physically. It goes exactly as you think it would go.
Yep.
This is one of them things. Like I think you've always tried that. You've always thought about it and just not. I mean, and even if it's not a physical fight. And again, that I actually got into a physical altercation with my dad once, and it involved my mom. Just like the physical altercation here with Corey in some kind of ways involved his mom too. But even beyond that, just like when I would play basketball with my dad, it's that moment. Like it's a rite of passage to at some point get to the point where you can beat your father in some kind of physical activity. And so I don't know. This film just hits home so close, and there's so much down to Troy telling the story about how evil his father was, and I would hear my dad talk about all the time about how his dad was an evil son of a bitch sometimes, not as bad as Troy's father was, but just, but even with that, still had that love there. Like Troy doesn't have as much love for his father, still wish he was dead, but I don't know, it's very, very real.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
The song that he sang about the dog,
mm-hmm.
Do you think that was an allegory to the relationship with his dad?
It could have been, now that I think about it. 'Cause I know it definitely felt that way to Corey at the end of the film when him and Raynell was singing it. So I definitely feel it was for Corey and Troy. I don't know about Troy and his father. But maybe it was. But you know what? I don't think it was for Troy and his father, because Troy basically says his father, he didn't like his father at all. Like there was nothing redeemable about his father. And even when he finished telling that story, he's like, yeah, I sometimes think about what happened to my dad, and he goes, I hope he's dead. It's like that. I don't think Corey had that. Corey definitely had some animosity towards Troy for that. But I think once that they were singing that song, it kind of came back to him that it wasn't. I think he got an understanding, right? He got an understanding of why his father the way he was. That he wasn't perfect, but there's a lot of good there, and that you gotta take the good with the bad. There's a lot of that going on too in this film. So yeah, this is a good fucking film.
Listen. Some people built fences to keep people out,
mm-hmm.
and other people built fences to keep people in.
Listen, we did when Phenom and I did the Collateral Beauty review. We said that it was a stupid fucking name, and the name for the film and the way they explained it in the film was fucking stupid. 100%. The reason why they named this film Fences beyond just it being, the play, but the reason why it's named that, and they don't actually go out and explain it 100% like out there like that, but you see why it's called Fences, and it's blatant, it's there, and yeah, this is a good fucking film. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 10. What are you gonna give it?
10.
Yeah, Yeah.
Go see it at your first earliest opportunity. Go check out this film. You won't regret it.
Opens on Christmas. This is definitely a film I think you can take your family to see. I think. Let me see, what is the rating on this? It's PG-13. Even with all the niggas in it, it's PG-13. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of niggas in it. When I say niggas, there's a lot. Using the word nigga is dropped every other fucking word at some point.
It is a noun, y'all.
Right, yeah. But I feel like that's such a normal conversation piece for 1950s. Even the day, to be perfectly honest. Like, I mean, come on. Like, it just is. So, I mean, yeah. I would love to see them people trying to make them think pieces on I don't like the word nigga, and I don't like when black people say it. Like, keep that shit to yourself, because that's what niggas talked about. And that's how niggas talk. So fuck it. But yeah, 10 out of 10. Go see this fucking film. And if Denzel and Viola don't win anything, this
riot.
We riot and like fuck yo. That could be the first riot in Trump's America if these motherfuckers don't win anything for this shit. They better fucking win. They acted their asses off. I don't give a fuck what
and
film
the
you saw.
Performances were so nuanced. Like even at the end, like you couldn't tell much of a physical resemblance between the kids and Troy, like to Denzel's character, not until the very fucking end. Because Lyons, like his facial expressions, like little micro facial expressions, like just the twitch of an eyebrow, or the way he like his inflections and his voice, like just his body movement, his manners, was very much like freaking Denzel Washington. That was freaking brilliant. It was actually kind of freaky. I was like, oh my god, it was so weird. I was like, man, these niggas be acting.
Yep, yeah, these niggas acting their asses off. So if they don't fucking win, we riding. Go see this fucking film. Yeah, and that is it. That is the last movie review we got of 2016. There might be one more unanimous decision coming out next week, and there definitely will be. We're recording our movie review preview for 2017. I got Deepam, Shannon, and the Doctor will be joining me on Monday to do that. And I'm still trying to get the Rogue One spoiler review. Should be next week as well. So for the premium members. So, but again, guys, thank you guys very much. Enjoy your holidays. And we will be back in 2017 because there's going to be a lot of movies coming out there that we'll have reviews for. So until next time, peace.
Bye.